How are you guys doing this evening?
Fantastic.
Thank you so much for joining us for the October event of Startup Grind Johannesburg. Just a brief history about Startup Grind. We're an international tech event. So essentially we have presence in more than 200 countries. So on a month-to-month basis, we host events and we invite someone who's actually, made strides in the particular discipline, and we chat to them and we find out a little bit about their history. Tonight we are hosting Justin Brennan. He's the CEO and founder of Wanted All. Super important. And so I have to mention that Startup Grind Johannesburg is being sponsored by Josie Hub for the venue, Sir Juice for the refreshments, Black Swan Events is doing the catering. We're also being sponsored by the STME Media Group, who's filming the entire show. So let's take it away from Justin.
Right. Okay, I'm gonna put this off. I think we don't need it, eh? Small enough. Everyone, am I okay?
Yeah.
Cool. So before we start, I just want to get a bit of understanding of what everyone does here. So I need one line telling me what you or your business does. Go.
Online shop.
Online shop. Which one?
Outfits too.
Cool.
Local governments.
Government.
Yeah. We help entrepreneurs flourish.
Microsoft.
We're collective. Yeah, we're collective. We provide excellent sunglasses for children.
Sunglasses for children.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it is.
Developer. We're a startup business.
Cool.
The radio host.
Radio host. Nice.
Coach and mentor.
Coach and mentor.
Online shop.
Online shop.
Zarproperty.com.
Property.
Yeah.
Right. We'll start there.
First was application of commerce.
Right, so that's Chamber of Commerce.
Business development.
Business development. Business development. Same thing. Over here.
Free connectivity to the masses.
Free connectivity to the masses. Okay, cool. So now I know who we're talking to and where we need to put yourself. Tell you about it. Okay. I thought I'd start and give you guys a little bit of insights into two of the businesses that we've been involved in the past 2 years. Both of them on in an online retail environment, which would be quite interesting. The first one is a business called Superbalist.com. I don't know if any of you know about it. It's an online retail business, which is specializing in products that are sort of like curated. What does curated content mean? It means that they go out and find the coolest products for you, and it's a push business whereby every single day they send you an email telling you about all the coolest stuff that you never knew existed that you should be buying. That's basically that's the curatorship model in a nutshell. And we partnered that business together with one of our other businesses called Parcel Ninja, which is an outsourced warehouse and fulfillment business. Effectively, you dump your stuff in a warehouse, we'll pick, pack, fulfill, and do all the hard work for you. And what we did is we enabled the guys to sort of stop focusing on supply chain management, logistics, and all of that, and focus on what they really want to do, which is sell products, which I think is something that all entrepreneurs are good at. So I think that a lot of the guys start a business with the intention of selling products. They don't start a business to sit in their house and pack boxes all day. That's not glamorous. And at the same time, because they don't love that aspect of the business, it sort of falls apart a little bit, and they don't end up focusing on it. And because of that, they end up hate going to work, if I can say that. So when you're packing parcels every day, it's not much fun. And if I think back to when we started Wanted All, I remember I used to leave my one job, drive past DHL at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, pick up our boxes from overseas, go back to my house with my brother and my friend Terrence. The three of us used to pack boxes until 11 o'clock at night, go to sleep, wake up the next morning at 6 o'clock and go to work again. And all of that was the grind. And I thought back, that's something I hated the most, packing those bloody boxes. If I didn't have to pack the boxes, I could focus on growing the business. I'd be rich. So I'm just going to give you guys a little bit of a background quickly and show you maybe a little bit behind the scenes, show you what happened, how it happened, and get a bit more info. You push the order to us, we'll find it in our warehouse, we'll pick it, we'll pack it, we'll deliver it, and then we'll give you all the nice reporting on top of it. That's in a nutshell. So basically it's outsourced warehouse and logistics. That's our one line. We sort it out. So to give you a bit of a history, the business was born out of Wanted All the Koza. So Wanted All the Tira today is an online retail business. We specialize in products from the US that you can't find in South Africa. It's very high margin, long tail business. Long tail means that what we do is we focus on products that you can't easily find within the South African market. And we effectively aggregate products from Amazon in the US as well as other suppliers. We then reprice the products in rands and get rid of all the hassle factor of bringing products in from overseas. We operate at a high margin, and we manage about 120 million SKUs in that business, to give you some sort of idea. Myself, my brother, and Terence started it, and we ended up starting the business in a little office in Bryanston. So we took some office space, as you can see, little smiley faces, those are boxes for Amazon, and there's all the stuff on the floor. And if you notice on these boxes on the floor on the bottom left jar, there's this little like piece of paper stuck on them. Those are telling us where they need to go. And let me tell you what happens is when you pack boxes all day and then you end up with a Weibull spare, then you know you've got a problem. And that's what we used to do there. Then in 2007, the business started getting a little bit bigger. We ended up getting some funding from some guys. There's a guy, Paul Harris, who started a business, who's one of the founders of RMB, or First Rank Group, so that's Discovery, RMB, FNB, etc., etc. Ronnie Aptek, who started Internet Solutions, David Frankel, who started Internet Solutions, and Angus McRobert, who's one of the guys that's involved in AfriHost. And basically, they liked what we were doing, and they said, listen, we want to give you some money, help you grow the business, and off we went. And we ended up getting a little bit bigger, so we moved to a slightly larger warehouse. Still a little bit chaotic, as you can see there. Then 2011, we took over and helped the Massmart guys start doing their e-commerce. So they might only be live in 2014, but they actually run on our e-commerce platform with our integrated logistics solution and all of our fancy stuff behind the scenes. And basically, Macro.co today, the new one, is run on our platform, and we manage all of that sort of stuff for them, which is quite cool. 2012, we decided that we enjoy e-commerce so much, we decided to actually invest in a business called Superbalist or City Mob. City Mob was originally one of the businesses that was focused on the flash sale model. So that's the equivalent of a Groupon. And they soon realized, after about a year and a half, that the space was incredibly cluttered. There were a lot of competitors. There was very little differentiation in the business, and they decided to move out of that and rather into this curated model of fancy products, if we can call it that. So we took a stake in their business. We gave them money. We got involved in the business, hands-on. And you can see on the little S's on the left there, that's their boxes going out. So we helped their business grow, we allowed them to focus on that sort of stuff, and at the same time we realized that if we can do this for Superbalist and help them with their warehousing, because we built out a competency in it already, is there not an opportunity for us to help other e-commerce businesses in a similar way? And like I said at the beginning, the guys don't like to pack boxes. We decided we'd make it our problem. We'll learn to like packing boxes. And as you can see nowadays, this gives you some sort of idea of what it looks like. There's all touchscreen technology, etc., etc. Warehouse. We're about to move to our new facility this weekend. We're moving into about 5,000 square meters. That's the size of our new warehouse. Okay, so that gives you a bit of a rundown of what it looked like. So now I'm going to just give you a bit more info about, quickly, what happened with Superbalist and how they pivoted their business, because I think there's maybe something of interest to you guys. So you start your business, you think you're doing one thing, shit happens, and you decide that you now need to change. What do you go about it? So they decided to move from City Mob into Superbalist, which curates fine art design. They've got 1 million customers in South Africa. They started like Groupon, selling those sort of things. They moved up a little bit to start moving into more sort of unique products, and nowadays it looks like that. So it's a high fashion, high touch website. What happens is, I actually spoke to the guys at Superbalist probably in July, and I said, well, City Mob back then, I said, listen, I like what you guys are doing, you're actually quite interesting. Out of all the group buying sites, etc., I think you guys have developed some sort of niche here because you're specializing in products, and those products that don't really have barcodes, if you can say it like that, which means that they're quite unique, and unique products are difficult to price compare. And when you can't compare prices, that means you can actually have margins. And especially online, because your closest competitor is one click away, you need to make sure that you can sort of maintain margin the whole time. And the way that you can do that is by adding a lot of touch points or adding a lot of value to these products. In other words, it's one thing to actually have an iPhone 6. What you need to have is you need to shoot it beautifully, you need to tell people about it, and you need to be the only person selling it. And these guys focused on that. So I went to go see them in July, and I said, I like what you're doing, can't we get involved? And they said, no, Justin, we sorted it out. We've got all that stuff going, life's rad. I said, okay, cool, no problem. When you have shit with your logistics, because you will, please come talk to me. Then we got a phone call on the 15th of December, and they came to see us. And you can see this is Luke, one of the co-founders, and he's sitting outside our one little office. And this is what they had. They had chaos. It was a mess. I don't know if you can see what's happening there, because I can't. But all I can tell you is, this is what they were dealing with. That's jalapeno.
Wow.
So there's a lot of angry faces there. And the reason for that, and that's common, because because jalapeno people bitch.
They do.
Yeah, they do. So what's interesting about it is they had this problem, and what happened, they were getting 400 orders a day on the Superblis business over Christmas. They could pick and pack 150. It means they had 250 backlog every day. You run that for 10 days, and you now got 2,500 angry customers who aren't receiving their Christmas crackers. So you rebrand them New Year's crackers, apparently. But anyway, so, so they had drama with the Christmas crackers. They came to come see me. They said, Justin, we need help. I said, not a problem at all. Let's take this a little bit further. I still want to be involved in the business, so we actually invested in their business as a shareholder. We brought them into our warehousing, and we started helping them out with everything. Basically, on the 20th of December, I think it was 2 8-ton trucks dropped off stuff at our warehouse and just dumped what you saw there on us. Nothing was barcoded. We didn't know what stock there was. We didn't know what had been sent out, what hadn't been sent out. If you can see, it was absolute chaos. If you notice, on top of the top left, there was pillows packed on top of things.
Wow.
This is not uncommon, let me warn you. You think every e-commerce business runs like a well-oiled machine. This is what most of them actually look like. I've seen a few of them. I can tell you behind the scenes. So, right, what drama were they having? 4 weeks to deliver. No customer service. Everything was bloody manual. They didn't know what stock they had. This is where they were running their offices in Cape Town. Everybody was returning stuff. They had no resources to focus on logistics. They don't know anything about logistics. How are they going to learn logistics? You don't want to learn logistics. They want to learn retail, and they want to learn how to sell. And at the end of the day, you can see they're not very happy oaks there. But that's fine. So now, just to give you some sort of scale in the business, these sort of that's a big number. To give you some idea, there's 3,000 people on the website at one point in time. If you go to Take-A-Lots, if you go to Macros, if you go to those sites, they'll probably do 500. This is what happens when you run a warehouse sale on Superblis. If you have 75% returning, which is obviously because it's email driven, so there's a lot of people coming back. So we're sending out an email telling them about the cool product that they didn't know they had to buy. They're coming back, and now they need to sell everything. And basically nowadays we help them ship their stuff really quickly. We do same day delivery for them. And when we got their stuff right, this is what happened. Remember I told you I took it over in December? Yeah, you go, from Feb all the way up. Happy, great service, life rad, everyone loves us. And since that, and after that happened, basically, we took them for 4 weeks to same day. We gave them API integration into our warehouse. They can do all sorts of fancy stuff. These are little cups they sell. They can focus on actually doing what they want to do, which is curate products. They can actually service customers. Their business grew, and it was doing 7 figures turnover monthly, over 450% in 12 months. We helped them cut costs, speed up delivery, grow sales, all that good stuff. And now if you actually go to their business is based in the Biscuit Mill in Cape Town. Got a little box, everything's cool, life's right, and bottom right you can see Massimo is very happy, life is cool. So we've sorted out all that. So now let's just show you behind the scenes what actually happened here. So they tell us Nike's coming to deliver stock. We say, cool, tell us what stock we're meant to be getting. We receive it. We make sure it's all right, because there can be issues with receiving stock. We then shelve it. We put it somewhere in our warehouse. You ask where? Which area in my warehouse belongs to me? I say you don't have any space. We adhere to what's called chaos storage. I don't know if anybody's heard that before. So it's the same methodology that Amazon uses in the US. So we've been around, we've looked at ASOS, Asda, Rulala, Gilt, Fab, Walmart, UTR, Vodafone. We've gone to look at all the warehouses and seen how they process their orders. And we decided that from an e-commerce perspective in South Africa, this is how you should be storing your stuff. So we use chaos storage. Chaos storage means anything can go anywhere in the warehouse, we don't care. Literally.
How do you find it?
How do you find it? Because as long as you know where you put it, you can find it.
Remember we
Don't put it in the wrong place. So what's interesting is if you look over here, you can see the guys, there's Nike shoes at the bottom, there's Nike shoes at the top, they're going all over the show. What's interesting about chaos storage, and this is where, if you're not in logistics, it's not that cool, but once we started getting into logistics, we realized there are actually quite interesting problems to solve within logistics. And an interesting problem would be, how do I ship 1,000 pair of shoes within an hour? And if you put all your shoes in a big square in the middle here, you can't pick 1,000. Why? How do you get to the bottom ones? That's a good point.
Top one.
Top ones are easy, bottom ones are difficult. You physically don't have enough space for all your pickers to come. So if I've got 50 pickers, how do you get 50 people around the small area? You can't do it. So what we usually call, we exploded through the warehouse so that there's Nike shoes everywhere, and that means your pickers can pick off lots of different pick faces in lots of places. So unless you know this and you want to get into logistics, this is the sort of stuff that we have to deal with. And what we've got is we've got guys that we've hired now that are from Wits that have got masters and doctorates in maths, specializing in machine learning and route optimization and all that sort of jazz. And basically, we make it our problem to know how to do warehousing. You just sell the stuff, please. So we put it on a shelf. Someone goes onto the website, buys the thing. I'm just running through this quickly. We then pick it. It goes into a whole order management system, picking, queuing. On their finger there is a little barcode scanner. They've got an iPod Touch on their arm. It tells them what to do. Anybody, I can pick any one of you guys and give you these devices and you can start becoming a pick in my warehouse. It'll tell you what to do. You don't have to think. And it stops you from making mistakes. If it says go to H1204 and you go to H1203, say no, wrong shelf. If you pick the wrong item, it'll tell you wrong item. And that's another reason why I use chaos storage, is because you don't store blue iPods, red iPods, green iPods. Because you want a green one, you go there and you scan the green one and then you take a blue one by accident. So now when you go to our shelves, there's a blue iPod and there's underwear and there's socks. And there's golf balls and there's vitamins. You don't pick the wrong thing. So it eliminates mispicking. But this system basically stops all of that from happening. Then what happens is it gets pushed down to the packing queue. The guys have got touch screens that tell them what to do, how to pack everything, what happens. Goes to dispatch, boom, off it goes, and we can tell you a little bit about how you to report on your business, telling you what's happening from a dashboard perspective, if you want to know. So that gives you a bit of a background on what happened, and just quickly a bit of info about online retail. So why do we give a shit about logistics? This is why. If 88% of people buy more if it's quicker. They think same-day delivery is important. They want to know how long it takes to get delivered. But what's nice is they're actually happy for couriers to deliver to your house. And this is what's most important thing. If you want to sell a lot online, this is what you've got to do. Get free delivery, track the stuff, same-day delivery. That's what they're looking for. You can go, I'll give you the slides. Okay. Let me check this out. Because I don't want to focus too much on for everyone. I'm going to do a little bit of grinding soon. Okay, so what's interesting is people pay more for same-day delivery, evening delivery, and weekend delivery, which is interesting in South Africa. And we asked 5,000 people to fill this out, which is quite cool. One of the key differentiators is how we, so if we want to become this all singing, all dancing logistics platform for everybody, how do we go about doing that? And we feel that the best way to do is to make it simple for the guys. So how do you make logistics simple? Because it's inherently quite a complex problem. Well, what we've done is we've built plugins for the majority of the e-commerce platforms. So if you run Shopify, you go into Shopify, you click add app, you go Parcel Ninja and say ready to rock. Drop your stuff at a warehouse, we're ready to go tomorrow. We've got our own APIs for Magento, BigCommerce, and then other APIs that anybody else can integrate with. So Superblis has built their own integration, but we support lots of other things, and lots of third parties. So we want to make it the de facto standard for the guys in South Africa. If you install an e-commerce store, there's Parcel Ninja support. Okay, I don't want to go through too much of the integration stuff, but the basic rundown is that we run it out of cloud, we run it on the Microsoft stack, it's all secure, etc., etc., etc. Basically, you just push the stuff to us and off we go. And then, like I said, we try to support quite a few other e-commerce carts. Guys try to push stuff in, and off we go. To give you some idea, so this gives you a rough idea of what we do. It's quite simplified. We started, our warehouse was about 200 square meters 2 years ago. We're moving to our new facility, which is 5,000 square meters this weekend. There's a huge demand for guys to get logistics right. It's not easy. And I think we trying to, as I said, embed ourselves in that ecosystem to allow the small to medium-sized e-commerce providers to have world-class logistics. Because if you can't invest in your logistics, how are you going to scale your business? And that's a big challenge. So if you can't deliver 100 parcels a day, how are you going to deliver 500 parcels a day? And we feel that we've come up with a slightly sort of, we've taken, how can I say this? We say, solve third world problems with first world technology. We think we've got some first world tech that we're building out here. We've got a team of, just within the development side, 5 developers that spend all day on this. And basically we're just trying to make this thing more robust, more sort of integrated, easier to use, etc., and basically allow almost anybody to just start an e-commerce store tomorrow. To give you some idea how easy it is to now launch an e-commerce site, probably take you 2 hours to sign up for Shopify. Shopify/UAfrica, which are the guys that help us there. You drop your stuff in our warehouse, you install the plugin, which takes about 20 seconds, and you're ready to go. Credit card payments are sorted, logistics are sorted, everything's done, now you're just going to market. And when it's so cheap to get into the market, we think that there'll be a lot more entrepreneurs who actually take that plunge now. And if there's a very low cost to set up and low, it's not capital intensive, etc., then we think that the guys can actually get it done nice and easily. And we're not trying to offer you some like hybrid service. This is a proper service that works properly and will let everybody start playing in the e-commerce space. And that's basically what we're doing up until now. And then on a side note, I don't know how many of you guys know, we ended up selling the Superbless business to the guys at Take A Lot about a month ago, which is probably one of the few e-commerce exits that's happened in South Africa. I think Take A Lot buying Take Two is quite big, Groupon acquiring Twangu is quite big, and the Superbless deal is probably the third biggest online retail transaction happened in South Africa, and we're involved in that. So that's where we sit. Thanks very much. Like yourself, I was actually born in Port Elizabeth.
Friendly city.
There we go. It's quite interesting because there's quite a few tech entrepreneurs who come out of PE, and
Really?
you'd wonder why.
I think we're relevant.
Yeah. And I was actually having this conversation with someone the other day, and like, well, why do there quite a few tech? Because there's quite a few tech guys that I know that are from PE that are involved in quite a few businesses. And I wasn't quite sure. Then I realized, that PE/Rhodes were probably one of the first cities to get internet access. I don't know if you know about that. Yeah. So University of Port Elizabeth, UPE, PE Technikon, Rhodes University, because the line actually landed at Rhodes.
Okay.
So the international cable landed at Rhodes, and then so we got exposed to the internet a little bit before everybody else, which gave us maybe a bit of a love for the internet, plus a bit of a deeper understanding. Like when I talk Archie and Gopher, I don't know how many of you have ever dealt in that, but it's like the real old school internet. Mm-hmm. So I come from that background. I studied, the three founding members of Wantalo actually all studied IT. So we're all tech guys, so we can all program, and I think that's an important thing within. If you're going to start a tech business, you got to have somebody within that business that understands tech intimately, as a shareholder or someone along those lines. And then left PE, moved up to work at BOE Merchant Bank, where I worked in the banking sector, looking after some warrant listings from France. I left there, I went to work at TransUnion, the credit bureau, went to go work at RMB Bank, and I left there and went to go work in the online gaming space for about 4 years. And the learnings from the online gaming space basically allowed us to start the whole Wantalo business. So to give you some idea how we started Wantalo, we're sitting around one day at the office, and we all play games. So we said, I want to get myself the new latest graphics card, which isn't available in South Africa. How am I going to get hold of it? I then tried to order from the US, and they said, no, you live in Africa. We don't ship to Africa. It's all fraud. So same paintbrush, the whole continent. They don't want to deal with you.
Yeah.
So as an entrepreneur, what you do is you try to find solutions to these problems. I think that's how these businesses are started at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. So I went and found out how I can ship this product
What year was this? Sorry, what year was
that?
this?
Was 2006.
Okay, sure.
So then we wanted to work out, so then eventually I worked out how I can ship this product from Amazon to a warehouse in the US, and they would forward the product onto me in South Africa.
Okay.
And I think we ordered like a Darth Vader mask, a Slinky Spring, and something else off, just to make sure that this thing is legit, because we weren't quite sure. I'm not going to ship the expensive stuff before I try out the Darth Vader mask.
Yeah, the Star Trek
So I want to try it out
stuff.
first. Star Wars. Amateurs. So then we shipped that stuff to South Africa. We got it. I shipped the graphics cards. We got all our monitors. Everyone was happy. I showed the guys around at the gaming space. They were like, oh, can you help us? I'm looking for this or this or this. And then we just started taking orders from people around the office. And then I went onto the forums. And we hustled there and told people what we were doing, and we got some buy-in there.
Okay, which forums?
Oh, we just went to the My Broadband forums and all of those sort of things, just to test out what we're trying to do here, because we didn't have a lot of money to invest, and we just wanted to see. But through that process, the nice part about our business is that it was cash flow sort of positive the whole time, because we would take the money up front, then we'd order it from overseas, and then ship it to South Africa, and then give it to the guys. So we got our money up front, so we didn't need a lot of cash to start the business. We actually had no money to start the business. So Terrence, Ryan, my brother, and myself started that. We started bringing in a few products and just sort of gained momentum, and we were able to grow the business organically to where you see it sort of today. That's really what's happened there.
And I can't believe that such an international operation was so smooth sailing. Like what?
No, there were don't get me wrong, there were a lot of bumps along the road. I mean, it's I still remember when we decided, because what do we know about logistics? Nothing. So one of the guys at the gaming space said, can I bring him in a box of cigars? So that's no problem at all. We'll put the box of cigars in with all of our other stuff, because we consolidate it. And that's when you find out you need a phytosanitary clearance certificate, and they hold all your stock back, and then it gets stuck at customs for 3 weeks and you can't get it out. And then you make a plan, and that's how you sort of build a business. I mean, we've had issues with that. We had importer's code. What's that? And then your stuff gets stopped. Then you have to go get an importer's code. And you go to SARS and you ask them for one. But I mean, the point is that you work it as you go. Like, you fake it till you make it. You just keep going until it works, and every hurdle, as long as you just don't stop and you keep going, then it's fine. And I think that resilience is something that you've got to remember at the end of the day. And I'm not saying never give up, because I mean, there's a point where enough is enough. But we had to we just kept going because we're probably stupid. we didn't know any better.
And were you guys actually still working at your?
We were still working at the casino, and this was just like a side thing that we used to do. And that's why I say I used to leave the casino at 4 or 5 in the afternoon, drive past DHL, pick up the stuff, and pack together with our domestic worker Rosie and everybody else.
She's a shareholder now.
She runs our operations in our warehouse. No, we're very big in empowerment.
Yeah.
So almost all the staff that we have are actually female, which is interesting. Previously disadvantaged, fully computer literate now, and a lot of them used to be domestic workers.
Oh, okay.
And interesting, a lot of them are from ZCC. Just on the side. Which is just something that's interesting. But we find that women are more meticulous when it comes to the picking process. And it's not something that we try to be prescriptive of. It just is what it is.
It is, yeah.
You know? And we also go to our staff and say, listen, we need someone else. Please, can you find someone for us?
And they go to the ZCC.
And they go to their friends, and they go to the family. And so you end up with... and that's why we actually run our business actually like a family. So why do I say we run it like a family? So at the end of the day, the goal is to make a profit. But at the same time, I think that growing a business in South Africa nowadays, or growing a business in South Africa, there needs to be some sort of social entrepreneurship element to this whole thing. And I was recently in Israel for a week where we were looking at businesses and how they're starting up, and they've got the same sort of focus where they say there needs to be some sort of social element to your business. If your business has no social element, then you haven't got longevity in your business. And we feel that as part of being in South Africa, we actually have to look after these people at the same time. So not only do you have to pay wages and you have to look after people and we treat them like a family, it's medical aid is important for everybody. If we ask all our staff what is the most important thing, medical aid. So we got medical aid for everyone. And the people, if you run your business like a family and you treat everybody equally, and we run a very flat structure. I go to work like this. I chat to our staff. Anybody can come see me at any point in time. There's no holier than thou. There's no one that sits in your ivory tower doing your thing. It's like everyone. The staff know that when the going gets tough and they need shit to get done, I will go do it with them. In other words, if there's problems picking, I'll go help pick. I really don't have a problem with it. And I think they need that sense, so the staff have that sense that I'm willing to get down and dirty with them, which is important. And there's a sense of camaraderie within the business. So that social element is looking after your staff and their families and everything that goes around with it at the end of the day. And so you might not be as profitable, but in our warehouse, we don't lose anything. We don't have any shrinkage in our business. So we shipped 350,000 products, we lost 2. That's it. And that's because the staff care deeply about the business, because the business is their livelihood. It's not we go work for a boss somewhere. It's like we are part of this business. And that's how we run our business. So maybe that's where I started and where we are now, but maybe not answering the full question.
That's fine, I understand that. And then in terms of the business partnerships that you have, I can just pick up, correct me if I'm wrong, that it's been a pretty successful partnership, but have you ever been in a situation where you've partnered with stakeholders and it hasn't really worked out?
No, 100%. I think we've run an operation in Brazil for a few years as well. We had a look at that business, that region. And there's a lot of learnings from it. I think before expanding globally or going to another country, I think after we did that, we actually wrote down on a piece of paper what worked, what didn't work, and what are the learnings from that. And I think there's a few parts. And I think the first thing is if you can't dominate your own country and your own industry 100%, don't even start to look beyond your borders. Because if you can't get it right 100%, why are you trying to go do it somewhere else and get fancy? In a place where you don't understand the culture, you don't understand the language, there's a different time zone, you don't understand the people, you haven't got the correct partner potentially. So there's all those sort of nuances that you don't really know about. So our story goes that we decided we want to ship products. If we can ship it from the US to South Africa, we can ship it to Brazil. And we did the same way, we said, well, let's just give this a go. And you ship 1 or 2 products and you learn a little bit about it. And then you start realizing, as you start getting to scale and getting a bit bigger in those countries, suddenly things get stopped at customs. And then you start hearing that, no, you need to grease the wheels, if I can say that, which is something we don't do. And that's when you start realizing that, because if you want to run, no one wants to buy into a business where there's a line item sitting on your income statement or somewhere, the expenses saying bribery. So we can't work, so we took a view that we couldn't work in Brazil effectively because of that, and we had to pull out. And all the investment that we had put in the business, which is millions of rands, basically lost.
Was it from your pocket personally?
No, personal, 100%.
And how do you recover from that?
No, well, what you do is you pick up again and you move on. We've done so when the business, in fact, even though we have got investors, we've actually never used their funds. It was all paid out as dividend. We've more valuable than the investment in cash is actually the investment from an emotional and learning perspective, from a mentorship, etc., etc. But the business we've actually we've self-funded entirely ourselves
Okay.
through this process. And so when I write out a check, it's my money. And I think that's important to remember. And I think and when it's your money, you just got to think about it a little bit more. But when it's your money, you can spend on whatever you want. Which is also nice. In other words, if I want a coffee machine, we buy a coffee machine. If I want a juicer, we get a juicer. So that's the flip side of it. So you do get a certain level of control because of that. But the Brazilian experience just taught us that at the same time as if you're going to take a partner, they've got to have some serious skin in the game. And what I mean by that is, like, it's nice for someone to say, we'll do sweat equity. In other words, we'll put in some time and effort and we'll introduce you to this and this and this and that. That's nice. How much money you're putting in. Because you need to put money in as well, because talk is cheap. And when it's your own money, then people work a little bit harder. Then they understand what it means in rands and cents for them to do it. So that's some of those points are the key learnings we've had with finding a partner. And I think one of the other areas from an expansion perspective is there's two things that we take away from that. One is that because you live in South Africa, you take a lot of things for granted. And you don't question things because of that. In other words, giving something to a courier and them delivering it to take is like a given. They know how to do that. In Brazil, it's not a given.
Okay.
Only certain couriers work in certain areas. So without knowing that, you wouldn't even know that you wouldn't know it, if I can say that. You don't understand the laws. You don't understand the complexities around those sort of things. So because you're unconsciously incompetent. Because if you don't know what you don't know and you have to go work it out, it just gets expensive. So I think that's the one thing. And the second thing is when you want to go into another country or do work in another countries, you've got to keep. And I dealt with one of the guys at Walmart who does their global expansion strategy, and he says it's like a pizza. You've got to have 75% needs to be is consistent. In other words, your business needs to be, the base is the same always. They make it from the same ingredients. There's tomato sauce, and then there's a little bit of topping that you've got to change. So you've got to be able to take your whole business into another place and just change a small element. If you're changing more than 25% of your business, that's a new business. So we've learned that before you go anywhere else, make sure that you can take 75% of what you got to that other place, or don't do it.
At all.
Yeah.
And then, like, just back to your previous points in terms of like conquering your own country, before you actually go abroad. Do you think the South African government has actually assisted you in any form whatsoever to actually, do something in tech and establish Wanted to what it is today?
From a government perspective, there's probably been two elements to that. If I say that. One was whenever there's a post office strike, we get busier. So the negative impact of government, I think, is and I think those are some of the solutions that you have as entrepreneurs. Is you're fixing problems that government or other people can't solve, and that's just life. I mean, whether it's standing in a queue to get your passport on behalf of somebody else, that's a solution for government, for a governmental problem. So there's a lot of solutions to fix government issues, which is fine. So we benefit from that in some regard. But other than that, we haven't really had any assistance from government in this up until now. But then again, I will say we haven't gone out there to try get it.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because we maybe started a little bit down that process and found it too cumbersome, too difficult. It's just a mission. And I don't have time to mission with that when I've got bigger things to worry about.
Right, okay.
And I think the focus is what's key to this whole thing. And so we say, even though it might save us 5,000 Rand and doing this sort of thing, listen, we've got other stuff to do.
To worry about.
Exactly.
Okay. And then also, if let's say example because I've noticed also with the local tech ecosystem here at Jersey Hub, most of them are interested in tech and they are working on apps and products, etc., etc. So they don't want to go the traditional route, have like a 9-5 job, etc., etc. How would you advise someone who's in that situation where they've decided, I'm going to be an entrepreneur from the day one. I'm not going to have a 9-5 job. Where do you go from there? Where do you get the strength, to carry on and,
I think it's difficult to comment on that when you haven't done it yourself.
Okay.
So I think that I've benefited a hell of a lot by working in big corporates because through working in big corporates, you understand process, methodologies, approaches, how you're meant to do things, how you're not meant to do things, why it's done that way, and you understand potentially how to scale a business. At the same time, you get to learn the bureaucracy, the red tape, the drama, and the hassles of doing business, and you get to learn a little bit about office politics at the same time. So I think that it's very important for people to have a little bit of a taste of the corporate lifestyle, the corporate world, just a little bit, just to understand what it is about. Because don't forget, my view is that a lot of the problems that need to be solved are actually going to be solved for other businesses. Like the B2B platforms are a lot stronger and a lot easier than a B2C play. So what do I mean by that? I mean, for a Wanted I have to go find 350,000 customers. That's hell of a difficult. If I can come up with one solution for a big corporate or a big bank or somebody, or solve some problem for them.
Like the post office?
Well, maybe not the post office, but if I can go in there if I can go in there and help them solve some problem, I'm not sure what it is, but by working in the corporate, you identify these opportunities. And a lot of people that are in corporates identify opportunities, leave the corporate, build the system, and sell it back to the corporates. And I think that from a startup perspective, it's a lot easier to do those sort of B2B businesses than B2C. But coming back to what you think is, I think people should taste a little bit of the corporate world. And if you really don't want to do it, then you need a strong mentorship / team around you that are experienced. Because as clever as you think you are when you're 18, you're not that bright. And so, if I look back at what I would have done, if I don't think I would have had the grit, determination, the drive to do it as I have now.
Okay.
Don't forget, what's interesting about this is, like, I'm 37 years old now. We only started this when we were like 30. Which is very interesting. I think, and I read an article yesterday, which is funny enough that you only hit your prime as an entrepreneur in your 40s.
Yes, yeah.
And I think it's true to a degree, because part of being building these things is to have a network around you that can help you with everything. And I'm able to lean on my network whenever we have challenges or issues around the business. And I think that's something that helps a lot. And then of course there's family, and I think that's a hell of an important part of it as well.
I'd like to open up the floor to questions. Does anyone want to ask Justin any questions?
You mentioned that you use the Microsoft technology stack in your business. Any specific reason why you went down that path, and what has been your experience with that? And if you had to do it over again, would that still be the decision that you would take?
Right. So what's interesting about it is the first reason why we chose actually the Microsoft environment is because we actually all come from a Microsoft background. And so I'm not going to say you're predisposed, but you know how to do things relatively quickly within that environment. And I think that we get great support from Microsoft in that, and I think you'd struggle to find an IDE or interface that's stronger than what you get with Visual Studio. So our developers really enjoy developing on the Microsoft stack. At the same time, it's also been taught throughout universities for many years. So when we were starting the businesses, there were a lot of graduates coming through that process that were competent in the Microsoft stack, and so we were able to take guys into the business that were doing it. Would I use Microsoft stack again today? Well, I think you need to run a bit of a hybrid depending on what you're looking for. I think you need to maybe run stuff on your own servers, some within the Azure cloud. You need to use Node.js or RabbitMQ or whatever other technologies you find are important. But you got to, the challenge is that there's always a flavor of the month. So 1 minute you're busy doing Ruby, the next minute the guys are saying you must be a C# developer, the next minute Node.js is popular, and then you could be running around between these technologies the whole time and never actually getting the product built. So I think you've got to take a view, and we take a view which is an iterative approach to development. In other words, we build something, we put it out there, if it breaks, we fix it and we move on, and we just do it like that. If you try to build the whole system from scratch, by the time you've built it, everything's run away with you. It's like, if it takes you 2 years to build something, by the time you put it down, it's probably not relevant anymore. So we try iterate the whole time through, just changing things, breaking things, trying to build it, and we evolve like that. So entire Parcel Ninja business that we effectively restarted, all built on the Microsoft stack again.
Points you made with regards to how it's beneficial for an entrepreneur to start out in a corporate. Obviously, you'll qualify it based on your own experience. Pretty much.
There we go.
We're on the same page. The Teal Foundation pulls students straight out of high school, gives them $100,000 to bypass university and go straight into developing stuff.
Yes.
Now, the point I'm trying to establish, or the clarity I'm trying to get, is the type of thinking of having guys go through a corporate environment is that part of the hindrance to us having our own Facebook or having a take wanted or whatever that can compete globally. Obviously, the African context is very fragmented, but the type of thinking that goes into running a business and creating entrepreneurs that are able to go out and take on the world at a relatively young age. How do we go from 0 to 1 essentially?
I think the challenge in South Africa is that there's not a robust ecosystem for this. So if you take Peter Thiel's example there, where you say, well, they're not going to corporates, but he's actually putting them through school or some sort of corporate learnership program effectively with money and they, with it, Y Combinator or whatever else they do, they actually mentor and assist and help these kids or these individuals they put them through, like, let's just say, a quick MBA, and they understand what they're doing, and they've got thought leaders that are globally top of their game assisting them the whole time. Then if you take it a little bit further on from there, then they've got an angel round, they've got a Series A funding, a Series B funding, they know how to then get further investment, and then they've got an exit. So within the South African context, and I was having a chat to some guys today, there's VCs in South Africa don't really exist because there's no path, if I can say that. So let's just say you're running a logistics business, you get investment, you start getting bigger, you get a bit of scale. Right, now what? Who's going to put in the next round of funding for you to scale up and scale up and scale up and scale up? In the US, that ecosystem has been highly developed. There's a lot of trade happening. In South Africa, that still needs to develop, if I can say that. I think that we'll get there. The challenge is that ultimately there's very few businesses from an e-commerce perspective. I'm just going to talk now. There's very few businesses that you can exit to. There's basically Take a Lot, a Naspers, and that's about it. The rest of the guys, you can't really exit your businesses to. I think that's a bit of the challenge. But to come back to your not going to big business and trying to do it yourself, I think you can do it yourself if there's enough support around you, etc., etc. Processes like this, mentorship, but you need guys that have done it before. And I think that's the challenge in Africa, is that it really hasn't, I'm not going to say hasn't been done before. It's trickier online. But you can definitely find business leaders to help you through the process. And I think if they ran a sort of an entrepreneurial process where these giants of industry came and helped you through a process, I think then you wouldn't really need the corporatization, if I can say that. But you need to take the learnings from those people, because you need to be able to listen to them and believe them and kind of, like, I guess, understand what they're saying and actually do it at the end of the day. And I think that's something that we don't really have in South Africa yet. I mean, if you came and you said, Justin, you're 18 years old, you have R1 million, go start a business, I would have nothing left. I can tell you that. But maybe if you gave me support structures, a board, a team of people, individuals that have done it before, etc., I think maybe things would be slightly different. And I also think what's interesting is the education system coming out of the schools, maybe in the US, is slightly different level to what we find in South Africa. So they might come out with a bit more of a understanding around entrepreneurship, business, accounting, and those sort of skills. I'm not sure, but I think that might also be part of it as well. I'll be looking at.
Hi, I'm Jablo here. I'm also a tech entrepreneur. I think it's pretty much a follow-up question to exactly what the gentleman asked. Our landscape is quite different from Silicon Valley or anything else. This side, it's quite hard to get like investment, because that's the stage that we had with this project that we're doing right now. You can't go to government because government is not grasped the tech situation, how it works. And in those dynamics where we don't have much of your wide incubators around the side to help us further develop that seed injection and stuff like that, so we miss that investment as far as that's concerned. What are the options that are out there? Maybe at your level, maybe you know of guys who are doing stuff out there to support such situation. What is out there? Because we've even tried reaching out to incubators that are like in other countries as well to see how we can leverage off that. Because we see the importance of seed first before the actual meeting the funders first. Seed allows you to develop it from prototype all the way to traction level, which is what all the elements that are key when you're speaking to investors. So what is out there, following that question that the gentleman asked? Thank you.
I think from a funding perspective, I think there's, from the people I've spoken to, there's never really been a big challenge for funding if people believe in the product. So I get opportunities across my desks weekly with internet startup businesses, would I like to invest in, etc., etc., etc. And I know lots of other people are doing it at the same time, and a lot of friends are involved in it. And I know that people that have exited other tech businesses are getting involved in more tech businesses. And I think it's just a matter of getting in front of them is maybe the first challenge. And if you look at people that have done it quite well, like I think Daniel Grasco, who's from Groupon, is invested in quite a few other businesses now. Justin Stanford, who's also invested in quite a few businesses. So there is money out there to invest in the businesses. I think you just need to find your way to them. And I'm happy to help out and introduce you to those people. That's not a problem at all. I think that the likes of like a Dragon's Den, etc., will help with entrepreneurship in South Africa, I'm hoping. But I think that it'll give the guys a bit more knowledge into what you at least need to have before you go speak to some form of investor. You can't just rock up and ask for money and not have a bit of a plan. So you need to have that done. And I do think that in South Africa there is money in that initial phase. I think it's the phases after that are difficult. I think it's easy to raise below R1 million. It's when you start going, let's just say 1 million to 10 million, and then 10 million to 50 million, and then 50 million plus. Those are all very different, and those are far more difficult to find. We've seen. So the first round is actually the easiest. It's from then it becomes progressively more difficult. But come back to, is there a place or a forum or space where you can go to raise the money? I'm not aware of anything like that. I think Silicon Cape maybe has some initiatives around that, but here in Joburg I haven't seen anything really.
Well, there are a couple of accelerators like Seed Engine.
Yes, I think there's what's it? 88 MPH in Cape Town, and Seed Engine. There are a few of these, but I think as I said, I think if you actually find your way to maybe those, the accelerators, they could assist more. But there's definitely other places besides the accelerators.
Listen, you mentioned at the start of your business, you guys did some marketing on My Broadband, and you also mentioned it's quite difficult for a B2C company to get started. So what was your marketing strategy at the beginning and growing once it all to a big business?
Back when we started, it was relatively easy actually compared to what it's like now. And why do I say that is because when we started our online business, there weren't many online businesses. There was Kalahari, there was Take Two, there was I think Net Florist, and a few others, but there weren't that many. So how we went about it was really 3 phases to the thing. The one was word of mouth through forums. There was no, I don't even think there was Facebook then, actually. There was no Twitter, that's for sure. So it was forums to start with, telling people what we're doing, getting specialist orders, bulking them and sending them. That's the first. The second was obviously Google PPC. That was key to the whole thing. I'm not sure if everyone's aware of it, but basically Google PPC allows you to be on Google and pay for a click. And what's interesting is when we were on Google back then in 2007, let's just say to bid on the word DVD would cost you 40 cents and you'd be in position 3. Nowadays you have to bid 8 Rand to be in position 6. So what I'm saying is, so the learning from the business is if you're going to go spend money on Google from a marketing perspective, spend it all today. And why do I say that is because it just becomes progressively more expensive over time. Because as there's more competition, etc., the cost per bid to go up, and so the price you pay for a customer today is always the cheapest price you're going to pay for a customer. That's what we found. So then we went word of mouth, Google PPC, and then the most important one is just to mail your customers every week, telling them, keep them top of mind with offers, specials, deals, things that are happening, just so they remember you. And we found that every single time we send a mail, we get lots of sales. It's spark every time we send a mail. So those are the 3 fundamental things. And then there's obviously the SEO sort of side of things, and then Facebook, Twitter, etc. evolved. But we really just try to stick to those sort of markets. And I think nowadays it's increasingly expensive to get into that space. And I'm not sure if I'd go the same route I did today that I did then. I'll probably focus a little bit more on the SEO side today, depending on what niche you're in and how difficult it is. But we found that would probably be the way to market. And then obviously I think teaming up with some sort of people that have an interest in your business that understand marketing might be another thing. I think collaboration in the process is hell of important. In other words, you need to find people that understand your business, want to be part of this whole story and go along with you. I think that works. And if they're in marketing, then it helps a lot.
Hi, it's Alan from your first store. Okay, so we don't import anything at the moment. We sort of started up a business without any cash and spent hours and hours loading all these products on the website, which takes hours.
Yes.
And what we did is we found products locally made. So, we found a whole lot of suppliers that could supply products in South Africa, and we're basically doing a drop shipping type of operation. So, sadly, we won't be using your warehousing yet.
No, that's fine.
But we're trying to find a product that, because all the suppliers in South Africa are supplying all the sportsmen's warehouses and the total sports and all of these things. And, we're finding, if you look at what we pay for the product, what sportsmen sell for, it's like 5 times the amount. So we're trying to get in on the 30% market instead of the 280% market. But we're not getting the sales going through as like we would like to get it going through. online it's hard to advertise. So you say pay-per-click and AdWords. I can't spend the money if I don't have the money. So, I mean, we went to SA top sites, we ranked 87. So we're thinking we're doing okay, but when you show us that 3,000 people on at one time, that's a dream. The most amount of people we've ever had on at one time is 200. At one time. That's not to say every one of those 200 are actually buying something. So we get a lot of hits in. I mean, I look at a lot of the orders, there are people from India and Greece and Brazil trying to buy products from us. Some of our products, because we're sports and nutritional products that they want to buy from us, and there's just no way I'm going to fight with customs, trying to get it out or getting it in, because everything's got narcotics in it.
100%.
So my question to you is, how would I then be able to say, I've got a certain product and get it out there, get people to my site?
So you're saying, just to clarify, you've got a South African product that you want to sell internationally. Is that what you're saying? Is that part of it?
Even within SA.
So okay, cool. So
because I don't have, you see,
you haven't got the margin.
Yeah, well look, I've got an 85 job and I'm trying to get out of it.
Okay.
So basically, I've got some cash, but I can't go to China or go to America and import a product and let somebody wait 3 weeks for a product. They just won't wait 3 weeks. That everybody in South Africa wants their product tomorrow, and they want Reebok, Nike,
brand.
Yeah. So I come along with a South African product with a no name. It looks like exactly the same product, and I'm trying to get this thing out and get it known.
Okay. So I'm not the marketing guru guy in this, but from what I've seen, what's interesting is so when we see within own brand businesses that want to launch obviously something that they've vertically integrated and they're manufacturing themselves and they're selling it online, is through association you can lift your product up. What am I trying to say like that? In other words, if you're going to go make a South African car and you want to sell it online, the car on the left must be a BMW, the car on the right must be a Mercedes, and your car must be in the middle. And through association, suddenly your product gets uplifted to be similar to those through association. So when you look at the Superbla site, what they do is they sometimes mix some brands that are slightly lower end, up the margin of those, but put them in the sort of same space as well-known brands. And I think what you said is quite correct there. What we find in the South African market from an SEO and search perspective is brands. South African people don't search for watch, they search for Casio watch, Nike watch, Reebok, etc., which is the challenge. I think what I've learned is in the space is if you can't be the cheapest, so you can't be in the middle of the space. In other words, you must not be well priced, you must either be expensive or cheap, and you can't be anywhere in the middle. If you're in the middle, you get eroded from both sides. So from an online perspective, because online is so small, the market is not massive, but the guys have money. What we like to do is we like to focus in high margin goods and focus on customer service. So in other words, you can be the same price or more expensive than everybody else. That's not what it's about. It's about actually delivering on a customer service and managing expectations in it. And that's what we found. So I'll give you the story from Wantaro, how we learned this. In 2007, the Rand went from 6 Rand 50 to 11 Rand 50, let's just say. Devalued 50%. So we thought, okay, now our prices have gone up 50%, or prices have doubled, sorry, we've got a problem. Sales dropped 20%. So in other words, we doubled our prices and dropped 20% of sales. That means that there's elasticity in the market. There's obviously people are willing to pay more for the stuff than we thought. And when the Rand came back to 6 Rand 50, we left the prices where they were. And from there we learned that people are willing to pay a premium for a product if you're willing to give them the service and everything around it. And when I drop margins and I try and make 15 or 10% margin, we don't sell anything. We sell roughly the same, and it's not worth my time. And I find in South Africa, if you're an online retail business and you're going for mass market appeal and scale, it's not there. Don't do that. Rather focus on a niche with high margins and do that properly. And maybe give cars a customer service or something along those lines. Now, if you find like when you're buying a camera, do you need a 6x5mm lens adapter with an O-ring with this? I don't know, but if there's someone that gives me the service and the advice, I'll buy from them. I don't need to shop around. They've given me what I'm looking for. So I think that level of service is something that people are actually looking for and willing to pay a premium for in South Africa. So don't play the price game, because you can't win that. You've got no chance. You're going to be up against bricks and mortar store that do billions of rands of turnover. How are you ever going to? Why would you want to outprice them? You want to outservice them. I think that's the way to go.
If people aren't buying, you can't show your service. That's the problem.
But you can start getting things. I think the service-oriented business have that word of mouth appeal. If you look at Duck, who's done that really well, Yappy Chef. They're the guys that epitomize service and that whole customer experience. They're expensive, but they're not trying to be cheap. they're trying to give you a service, and that's what it's about at the end of the day, I think. How to get more sales? That's the challenge. But I think find some people that want to invest, get involved in your business, that want to help you with that part of it. That's what I think. That's it.
There's someone else who has a question.
There we go.
Okay, my name is Soritari. I'm from Radio Junto and Dame Group. I just wanted to find out from you, Justine, how to build clients in the service business, and also how important is MBA when it comes to running a small medium enterprise.
How important is the MBA?
Yeah. And then the final one, how do I forge partnerships in business? Because now I realize that a lot of businesses are putting out. So how do we go about forging a partnership?
Okay, cool. So the first one is how do we get clients? Then there's the MBA, then we need to forge partnerships. Those are the three, huh? Okay, I'll start with the MBA in the middle. I don't know one entrepreneur in my field that's actually got an MBA, funnily enough. So I'm not saying it's not important, I'm just saying that I haven't seen it within our sphere in online retail. There's not many guys that have MBAs that are doing it. So how important is it? Probably not as important as you think. And I don't think it's that important, and the opportunity cost from being in the MBA is massive, but at the same time, the guys that have done MBAs and gone to done it at proper places end up with a strong network instantly. So in other words, if you're going to go to Harvard, Yale, Stanford, London School of Business, INSEAD, one of those top MBAs, then I think it's worth it. You pay the $100,000 and you buy yourself a network. When you finish there, you get out, and all the guys that you're hanging out with are top guys within business. So I think that's the benefit of the MBA, which might lend itself to the third question, which was how do I forge partnerships with businesses. And I think that's just going out there and seeing people and just being in meetings and having chats with people and working out what you need to do and just being in people's faces is what really counts. In other words, and if you are likable, giving a good story, have a good business and can add value to them, then they will introduce you to the right people to forge those relationships. And I know that, like, when you're starting a business, it's all about hustling at the beginning. And you've got to go out there and see all the people, and meet a lot of people, and make friends with a lot of guys, and just go out there and kind of do it. And who knows where it's going to end up? I'm not sure. But at least when you go meet people, you start having a chat with people, and you don't know where it's leading. It's the law of unintended consequences. So you meet, you chat, and you find, and this person introduced that person, and it's a slow process. But that's how you build a network at the end of the day. And that's something that we've tried hell of a hard to do within our business, because those business relationships, when running a B2B business, are what it's all about at the end of the day. The third one is, I guess, getting customers, you're saying. When you say customers, you're talking about listeners on your radio.
No, in business.
In business customers. In other words, you want to sell advertising space in your station. Is that what you're talking about?
No, basically, I just wanted to find out, how do you build your clientele when you're in the service business?
In the service business.
Yeah.
I think once again, I think it's in the service-oriented businesses. A lot of it is word of mouth. I could show you, like on the Superbus slide when we had up the Hello Peter remarks. I think doing a good job, getting that referral, and working those people that you've done a good job for is hell of important. In other words, people say so one of the things we used to run with Superbus, which was a big thing, was refer a friend. So in other words, now that you've had a pleasurable experience, please tell your friends, and we will give you something for that. It's simple. You can't ask someone to get referred before you assist them. So after they've done something with you, you just ask them, what did you think? Have a bit of an experience around it, and share this with your friends. And I think that's worked quite well in that business for us. In other words, that word of mouth element has got the business bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think that's worked really well for us in that space. I'm not sure if that answers everything, but I think that's just one of the elements that I can think of off the top of my head that's worked well in our business, is that referral system. Project.
Cool. Kudos over here. Still a student, right? I'm studying here after. Basically, my question is around company registration. Okay, what is important in registering a company? How do you make sure, if I am to register a company, how do I not close myself into a little box that this is all that I can do? I can only do logistics and I cannot grow my business from there on. And another thing is basically starting out, you know. I read like a lot of these business books here trying to tell you how to make money, you know. Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Gaten McKenzie's Hustler's Bible, Chico Hero, Capitalist Nigga.
Yeah.
You know, all these kind of books, they motivate you in what to do in business. But now, from your perspective, what helped you get to where you are today?
Okay, from setting up a company perspective, sure. Because we set ours up a while ago, but I think nowadays it's changed a little bit, and I'm probably not the best person to give advice on what is the correct company structure. From what I understand now, though, is that companies are effectively registered as PTYs, so you don't really have to worry from a being tied into a corner, only being able to do certain lines of work. From the PTY perspective, you can have co-shareholdings in other businesses, etc. So I wouldn't really worry too much about that. But I think I would seek the advice of somebody that is a specialist in this sort of field and get a bit of a feel for it. We actually outsource all that sort of stuff in our organization. Yeah, and you don't worry about, like, for us, we are Sugar Creek 158 PTY Limited, trading as Wanted All. We had that for like 6 years in the business, so it was never really a concern. As to what's got us to where we are now, I think and I think what's interesting is, like, people, like, one of the comments, I think it's Peter Thiel has a chat about it, which is, what are one of the truths that you know that nobody else knows? Which is an interesting question to think about. And that's one of the interview questions he uses. And I think one of the truths that we work out is that if you work hard, you'll be successful, which is a lie. It's not the truth. Working hard means that you're working hard. Doesn't mean you're going to be successful.
Yeah.
So I think something to remember within that is that, so you say what has worked for us is that yes, we've worked hard, but we've also picked the industry. So when you play poker, the first thing they teach is suss out the table first. Don't sit down with the best poker players, because you don't want to play against them. You want to find a place where you can monopolize. Peter Thiel once again. So you want to take an industry and you don't want to disrupt, you don't want to be too difficult, you just want to do your thing, focus on a niche, get the niche right, and expand in concentric circles out there. So in other words, we chose a niche, which was import products from the US. People used to come to us all the time and say, can we list our South African products on your site? No, but you can sell. Don't care. We stick to what we do, and we do what we do well. And that's sort of like, saying no to things is much more difficult than saying yes. And more often than not, when we say no, things go right. When we say yes, then we end up getting involved in businesses or aspects of business that we really don't want to be part of. And it detracts from what we're really trying to do, which is maintain focus, etc. in the business. So I think the focus is hell of important. I think, don't get me wrong, the working hard is what it's about, but I think picking the industry and picking the business that you're about to go into is far more important than anything else. In other words, if you're going to go into, and I think it's Michael Porter's 5 forces they talk about, go Google that, I think it's important. And do that analysis first before you even start your business. Have a look, do you even want to get into this space? Do you want to go start an online retail store selling books and DVDs? No. But the market is this big, yes, but who's got all the power? You have no power, the buyers have all the power, there's competition, all those sort of things. So just pick the industry that you want to be in first. That's far more important than anything else. Because you can be amazing at what you do, but you could still be beaten by bigger businesses around you just because you're choosing the wrong industry. And so we chose an industry that was very, very, very niche. Products from America, not available in South Africa. There's probably one other store that was doing what we do. They don't exist anymore. That's it.
But logistics, sorry. Just to add, logistics you would think is very general.
So 100% logistics. So if we take a look at that, logistics, 100%. I don't want to be in logistics. I don't want to own a fleet of vehicles delivering stuff. Why? Because there are lots of people doing that already. It's capital intensive. There's high competition. You don't have any of the power from a pricing perspective. I don't want to do that. I want to do picking and packing for e-commerce stores and specialize in that. No one else does that. And that's all we want to do. We're just going to try to do one thing properly. If you can't do one thing properly, how are you meant to do 5 things properly? You know? Don't be half-assed. Be full-assed.
Are there any more questions?
Yeah, just to add on there, when is the right time to diversify?
I think, like we said, is when you own your market and you know what you're doing, and then you diversify. It's like, get your stuff together and get what you've got right before you need to diversify, pivot, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, that's not an easy thing to talk about because it's different for each businesses. But that's what we find is like just get your stuff right before you want to start diversifying. You can't if you haven't got your core business right. How can you diversify? And that's what we've learned is like just get your shit right in one place, and then you can get scale and diversify.
Okay, maybe the last question. Thanks, Russ. So I want to match two of your answers together and see if you think it makes sense. You spoke about your Brazil experience, and you spoke about some of the pivots that Superbalist did. The whole sort of agile fad and lean and some of the sort of agilist, scrum-fundamentalist stuff going on at the moment. You see some of these startups just pivoting all over the place, wheels spinning. And I read an article recently about how an examination of Y Combinator and Techstar success stories, they saw that the companies that had pivoted more than twice were far less successful than the ones that had pivoted once or twice. Obviously, once or twice was better than nothing, but once or twice was the sweet spot as opposed to more. And I just wanted to ask you, in your example of don't go into another country unless you use 75% of what you already have.
Yeah.
Do you think that applies to any type of pivot? Don't go into an industry or don't go into a new line of business unless you can use a significant percentage of something you already have?
So I think if you read the lean startup and some of those, they talk about they give you 10 different types of pivots. There's the zoom out, the zoom in, change industry, change it. So I think there's a lot of different sort of ways to look at it. I mean, effectively, we've chosen one aspect of our wanted all business, which is we were quite competent in warehousing, and decided to zoom in on that and just build it out as a business. And we find that when you probably flesh out something that you understand a lot about, that's when it seems to work. And as like you said, you can be pivoting all day, every day. We've also seen that in other businesses. This doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work. What does work, folks? And as you said, you just end up wheel spinning and going, look, we've done a full 360 and we're back where we started. So I'm not sure when is the right time or when you need to do it. I think the guys need to really sort of assess the situation in the business. And I don't come from a position that we've pivoted a lot. We've tried to as I said, if you pick the industry at the beginning quite right, then you probably need to pivot less. And I think, as you said, if you're pivoting 3 times, or if you're changing what your business focus is 3 times, I don't even know what you're about. And I think also you lose, when you go into the business, you go in with a reason or a passion about a particular industry. And if you're changing industries or changing what your business is about, I don't know if you love it that much anymore. You know what I'm trying to say? You say, I want to go in and build software for medical doctors, and then pivot, we're going to sales reps, and then we pivot, and next thing we know, we're a hairdressing business. not quite like that, but you know what I'm trying to say. Then it's far away from what you actually gave a shit about at the beginning, if you could say that. And I think that's something just to think about.
Any more questions?
Where does this concept of pivoting come from? Is there a book or something?
I think
there's a long history of books. So if you want the original, if you want to read the original academic book by Richard Norman, which was translated from Norwegian, it's a hell of a difficult book to read. Then you can go on to the Clayton Christensen stuff,
Yes.
Innovator's Dilemma, Innovator's Solution.
Yes.
And then the more recent popularization of it is the Eric Ries stuff, which really is just a packaging and dumbing down of the Clayton Christensen stuff from the 1980s.
So I think Clayton Christensen does some cool stuff. There's a presentation of Clayton Christensen where he talks about the steel industry. I don't know if you've watched it, steel mills and how it happened. If you can find that on YouTube, it's great to watch.
That's the Innovator's Dilemma, Innovator's Solution.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Thank you guys so much for being such a lovely audience. Thank you, Justin, for being such an amazing speaker. Once again, I have to mention that Startup Grind is being sponsored by Josie Hub, Black Swan Events, BMH Media, STME Media Group, Sir Juice. And guys, have a lovely evening. We're just heating up some pizzas for you guys, and I think there's a couple of refreshments. The next event is on the 19th of November. We're hosting Neil Skuman. He's the founder and CEO of Hotel, so please check that out. Thank you guys, and let's just give one more round of applause. Startup Grind Johannesburg is being sponsored by Sir Juice, Josie Hub, STME Group, and Black Swan Events